Hey guys, Shenae Beech. Welcome back to my channel. Apologies in advance if the audio quality or video quality isn't up to snuff, but I'm running on borrowed time right now. My newborn Kingsley is napping. I never know how long it's gonna last, so I'm just trying to bang out this video because I know it's something a lot of people are very eager to hear about. It's something that I'm very eager to share about. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my birth story. I actually did a video much like this one the first time I gave birth to my daughter Bowie, and I shared a little bit about that experience. I wasn't as candid, I guess, at the time. This was dating back about 3 years ago, and I just wasn't in a place where I had really processed everything that happened to me during that birth experience. So I want to start there because that really reflects a lot on how my second birth went down, and the differences there are what I'm most excited to share with you. Basically, the first time I gave birth, I was planning on a vaginal birth. I didn't decide at the time if I was gonna have an epidural or not. I just kind of wanted to see what happened. I just knew that I was gonna be giving birth at a hospital. I always planned on letting my body go into labor naturally, but there were some circumstances that urged me into getting induced. My doctor recommended it. I was 41 weeks pregnant when I was induced, so I was nearing that threshold where they would have to induce me anyway. I also had my parents come into town for the birth, and they were only able to come for a short window, so I didn't want to miss the window of them being there. So I was just feeling a lot of kind of outside pressure and let that influence my decision to get induced, which is something that I went on to really regret. Not because I know that it would have gone down differently had I not been induced and I did go into labor naturally, but I can't help but wonder if being induced influenced the way that my first birth happened. So basically, Josh and I drove to the hospital. I got induced. They broke my water. They gave me Pitocin, which brought on contractions. The contractions, because of the Pitocin, were absolutely insane. I went from having no contractions to having back-to-back contractions with no downtime whatsoever in between. It was like at a level 11 immediately, and I endured that for a few hours, just trying to breathe through it, trying to ride it out. Josh was massaging different points to try and relieve and give counter pressure and relieve the pain a little bit. Nothing was helping, and at that point I decided I definitely needed an epidural, which I'm so glad I did. Nobody needs to be a hero about it. If you're considering it at all, I definitely would recommend an epidural because it saved my whole experience. I wound up being in labor for 18 hours. So I can't imagine having done 18 hours minimum of those kinds of contractions. The epidural, once I got the epidural, obviously you can get comfortable really quickly. So I was just watching my contractions happen on the monitor, but feeling nothing and just napping on and off. I was having conversations, I was laughing, honestly forgetting that I was in labor for the most part. Now, at that point, the doctors come in, they check you to see how far you're dilating, and I was dilating really slowly. So 18 hours in, I had dilated to about 5 centimeters, and I was nearing 6 centimeters, and then the next time they came in and checked, I was back down to 4. And at that point, my doctor told me, you're swelling, and you're swelling a lot, very rapidly. You're gonna need a C-section. This baby's not gonna come out this way. I had not considered having a C-section at any point during my pregnancy. I talk a lot about this in that first video I did, so I'll link it down below in case you want to check that out. You'll hear the full story there. But the most important part of this whole experience is kind of what happened next. I had a very short window of time to make the decision to have a C-section because my epidural was wearing off, and they needed to determine whether or not they were gonna re-up my epidural and see if I wanted to hold on for longer to see if anything would change, or if they were gonna give me a full spinal block and move me into the OR for a C-section. I had a complete panic attack. I, like I said, had not considered having a C-section before. The thought of a C-section, being awake on a table while they cut you open and and pull a human being out of you is not something I ever wanted to choose to experience. I was just honestly terrified about being awake. I was like, you can do whatever you want to me if you just knock me out. But I'm really glad I didn't do that. So they wheeled me in. You know, my doctor basically said it's not an emergency. This wouldn't be classed as an emergency right now, but it will turn into an emergency very quickly, and you want to wait for that to happen because you'd be putting yourself and baby at risk. Needless to say, I opted to be wheeled straight into the operating room. So I went in. I had a lot of trauma around the experience of just setting up for the whole C-section because I'd never been in that kind of vulnerable position before. It was just, yeah, not something I had mentally prepared for. And I'm the kind of person that, like, if something scary is gonna happen, I need to mentally prepare myself for it. So I had no time to do that. And then once the surgery got underway, I was super tight with my doctor. Like, I love her so much. And she was very maternal with Josh and I throughout my entire pregnancy. So I knew that I was in good hands with her. And the surgery was going, you know, pretty much according to plan. I was freaked out, so I was like narrating the entire time. I was like looking at Josh the whole time, just being like, and now I can feel some tugging. And so I'm aware of the fact that they are probably cutting me open right now, but it doesn't hurt, you know, so that's good. And I was just like nervously narrating my entire surgery. And I had been told by my doula, you know, when they pull the baby out, it won't hurt, but you will feel like an intense pressure. So just know that that's coming so it doesn't scare you when it's happening. That's normal. That's what is supposed to happen. So they braced me. They were like, okay, we're going to pull the baby out. You know, this is the moment. Dad, get your camera ready. And everything was like all exciting. And right before they did it, I felt something sharp, which I shouldn't have felt something sharp. Obviously, when you're like numbed everywhere, it's normal to feel tugging and pressure and pulling and that sort of thing, but like nothing should hurt. So I said that and they were like, oh, here? And they touched whatever part of my body they were touching when I had initially said it. And I was like, yes, there, like I feel that. And they looked at the anesthesiologist and he was like, do not pull that baby out. Nobody move, nobody do anything. Everybody stay exactly where you are. And then he called down for more medicine. And at that point, I started to get really, really fucking scared because when like the doctor sounds nervous or scared or uneasy, like obviously it sends you into a panic. That's when I started to kind of go in and out of consciousness. I think at first I was just hyperventilating. Like I think I was just freaking myself out more than anything because at that point nothing had gone wrong yet. So then they rushed in more drugs. I don't know what they put on me or in me or whatever. But I do know that it made me swell up a lot after the fact. So I was now numb. They proceeded with the surgery because I do remember very, very clearly hearing my daughter cry for the first time. Like more than even seeing her, hearing her cry for the first time was like the highest high that I've ever experienced in my life. It was like the most elated, joyful, relieved, excited, like cloud nine. I don't know. It was just something washed over me and Josh. We were locking eyes and we heard her cry and it was like, fuck, we did it. You know, we did this. We made a person and she's here and she's, you know, breathing and crying and she's real and this is it. We did it. And it was the best feeling in the world, which is why I said earlier, I'm very glad they did not knock me out because I would not have wanted to miss that moment for the life of me. So after they got the baby out, that's when stuff started to go wrong and I could feel it. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know if it was just, again, still me freaking myself out, but I just remember looking at Josh and he was like, she's here, she's perfect. And I just looked at him and I said, is she okay? And he said, yes, she's perfect. And I said, okay, I love you both. And at that point, my eyes rolled back in my head and I lost consciousness. Obviously, like, there's more to this. There's another side of this story. There's the person who was watching this all happen, Josh. And, you know, we've talked about that and stuff. That's his story to tell. But for me in that moment, I definitely thought, I don't know. I've never been in any like near-death experiences. I've never been in any really particularly scary experiences. Like I've never been that hurt. I've never I'd never experienced anything like that. I just needed to know that she was okay. And once I knew that she was okay, I just felt like my body was like, okay, you can go now, you know, like she's okay. So at that point I passed out, and all I can remember moving forward from that moment was just being in and out of consciousness the whole time and feeling like nobody knew what was happening to me. Like I felt isolated in my experience, and I just kept telling Josh, you know, like, tell them, please tell them. I can't feel my arms anymore. Please tell them, like, I can't, my arms kept going numb, and I felt like I needed to throw up. Please tell them I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna throw up. And then I would lose consciousness again. I don't even know if I ended up throwing up at any point. Like, I just know that in my head, like, nobody knew that something really bad was happening to me. And he was so amazing. He kept reassuring me, like, okay, I'm telling them. And he would tell them, even though they knew that something bad was happening, because they're the doctors and they were all standing around dealing with what was going wrong. At the time, I didn't know that anything appeared wrong to anybody else. I just knew that I was feeling like it was very wrong. And so I needed him to tell them. And he did, bless him, while watching all of this unfold and actually seeing what was really happening to me. And also dealing with the fact that he was now holding this newborn baby, and the doctor just kept telling him to hold her right beside my face to try and keep me conscious. And I just remember the baby being there, and they tried to put the baby on me at one point so I could hold her, hoping that that would make me, you know, just stay awake. And I just remember they put her on me, and I was like, you have to take this baby right now because I'm going to drop her. I can't feel my arms. Please take her. Ugh, sorry, I really wasn't expecting this to go that dark. So they took the baby off of me. Cut to, because I really don't remember like what happened or how long it was. I looked over and I saw Josh holding the baby with my doctor out in the hallway, and I thought that was really strange. And in my head, I immediately went to like, something irreversible has happened and she's telling him, and now he needs to figure out how to tell me. And I was like, but the baby's okay, and you know, we have savings and whatever. If I'm like out of commission, I don't know what went wrong, but something went wrong, and now we just need to deal with this reality. But you know, she's okay. And then I rolled up. It was like life washed back into my face. I all of a sudden felt completely fine. And I rolled back up and looked up ahead at the ceiling, and I just saw blood on the ceiling, on the light that was hanging overhead, like the operating light. And I was like, fuck. Okay, something did go wrong. Like, okay, it wasn't just in my head. Other people know something bad happened. Still to this day, I can't remember what the complications actually were. I know I had a tear in something and a rip in something. I didn't have a uterine rupture or anything extreme like that, but I did have injuries internally that started to cause me to lose a lot of blood as they were going to stitch me up, because that's what Josh remembers, is that they were stitching me up and then they had to reopen to deal with the internal bleeding. I don't know, it's all very foggy. I like don't know medical speak at all, so I don't want to say like, oh, this is what happened to me, because I honestly don't even know. I was told, but I don't remember the specifics. Anyway, there was no permanent damage. Nothing was wrong with me. I was totally fine after that surgery, but obviously it did leave me with a lot of emotional scars, as you just saw. It was a very traumatic experience for me, for us as a family. And this time, because we moved pretty recently, I didn't get to know or develop a relationship with my doctor out here. I had had my doctor in LA since I was 18 years old, so I was super close with her. I just didn't feel particularly comfortable with my new doctor. I didn't have the support of a doula like I had the first time. We didn't have support of a lot of family physically because of travel restrictions due to COVID. So we just didn't have the support system that we had the first time around. And I knew that that trauma was going to come back and bite me a little bit. I wanted to make a decision for this birth that allowed me to have as much control over minimizing risk as possible. And I was encouraged to go for an elective C-section, which I felt like it was the best decision for us, because at least then I would kind of be prepared for what I was walking into. And like I said already, you know, I needed that mental preparation the first time around. I didn't get it. So I wanted to do that for myself this time. I was also told that obviously there are some pretty severe risks, very rare risks, but very severe risks with a VBAC. And because I didn't know the medical team that would be delivering, I just did not want to run any major risks this time. Last time was risky enough. Then when I was like 38 weeks pregnant, I was told I was already dilating and my cervix was getting super short. And so, you know, I was actually maybe going to be a good candidate for a VBAC. And that was a bit of relief to my system, because I was fucking terrified of getting a C-section again. I really did not want to have one. I wanted to, it was my decision to go for an elective C-section, but in the same breath, I really did not want to have to go through a C-section again. So when I was told I could be a good candidate for a VBAC, I was like, okay, well, maybe this is like nature, God, the universe's way of telling me, like, don't do a C-section again. And I should listen to my body, which I didn't do last time because I got induced, and that has been something I've regretted ever since. I'm just gonna let my body do its thing. I'm gonna keep the C-section surgery scheduled as is, because if I end up not going into labor naturally, then maybe that's nature, God, the universe's way of telling me I'm supposed to have a C-section. And so I will just see out these next 10 days or something and hope on the inside that I do end up going into labor naturally so I can see it through, because I have always wanted to have the experience of a vaginal birth. But if it's not meant to be, it won't be. I'm just gonna like let the universe play my cards how they're meant to be dealt for me. Needless to say, because now you know, I did not end up going into labor naturally. I did end up making it all the way to my C-section surgery date, and I proceeded with that. And if you watched the vlog leading up to my birth week, you would have seen that I wrote Bowie a letter before I left the house. And I got really emotional talking about that in that video, because there were a few reasons why I wanted to write that letter. One of the ones I kind of spoke to at length in that video, you know, just wanting her to know before her baby brother was here that she is so special to us, and she's been our rock in so many ways, and all of that kind of stuff. Now you can probably understand that there was another reason why I wanted to write that letter to her, because I was so scared going to the hospital this time because of what happened last time. So I just wanted to have something for her just in case. So I wrote her the letter and then went to the hospital, and I just kind of was like, you know, said to Josh, like, you know, like, let's do this. Like, I don't want to think about it. I don't even want to really talk about it anymore. Like, I'll be okay. I have to do this. Like, battle face on now. Because I have no choice. I'm going, and we are going to bring this baby into the world, and I just want him to be healthy, so I don't want to think about anything else. I just want to get there and get this done, and then think about it later. So we got there, and of course there was like delays, and it was like, fuck, man, I just want to rip this Band-Aid off. Like, please get me on that table. And then everything, once it did start to happen, it all happened really quickly. One of the greatest blessings in this whole experience was the anesthesiologist, because it all happened so fast. And this time, the anesthesiologist came to me and was like, do you have any questions? And I was like, yes, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know the difference between an epidural and a spinal block. I don't know the process and how it's supposed to kind of normally go, because everything was so rushed and emergency-like the first time around. And then I explained to him like why I was so scared because of what happened the first time, and he just listened to me. Which a lot of the times when like you're dealing with hospitals and doctors, like they do this shit all day, every day. So like 100% fair play to them. Like, it's just protocol. Like, they're just trying to get through as many deliveries as they need to get through that day so they can get home to their families. And so everything is very kind of sterile and rushed, and like very detached, and he just listened, and he was so patient and walking me through what the process was. And he was like, I'm gonna let you know, like, when things are happening that I think you need to know about, like when they're gonna be doing certain things, or when they're, you know, for example, pulling the baby out, like I'll make sure that you're aware as things are happening. I was like, thank you so much. Like last time I was narrating the whole experience because that gave me peace of mind, because nobody was telling me what was going on. And so like that just calmed me down so much. He was wonderful. Then they wheeled me into the room, and Josh had to wait outside while they gave me the spinal block, because it's a very specific thing and there's a lot of people like prepping for the surgery and stuff. So like dad's just getting away, and they just wanted to like keep it all safe. And I was so scared to have to go into that room by myself. So when I went in, the nurses were so sweet. While they were setting me up for the spinal block, because I was really scared, not really knowing, like it was not painful at all. The epidural, I think, is supposed to be way more painful. My contractions were so painful the first time that I didn't feel the epidural go in at all. So anyway, I didn't know what to expect. So I thought it was gonna really hurt or something, but it didn't. But the nurses were so sweet with me while it was happening. They were like, so how old's your daughter? You know, they were just like trying to distract me, which was really, really kind of them. And then the spinal block started to do its thing. I laid down on the table, and at this point I started shaking so bad. They kept asking me if I was cold. I was like, I don't think I'm cold. I think I'm just terrified. And so they were putting blankets on me and stuff. Nothing was stopping me shaking. And then thank God Josh walked in the room. But before he walked into the room, right before he walked into the room, one of the anesthesiologists was like, okay, we're doing the pinch test now. And they like pinch my stomach in different areas really hard to like see if I can feel it. And for the most part, I couldn't feel it. I would feel like nothing, or I would feel a little bit of tugging or something like that, but nothing really. And then when they got higher up, like kind of around my rib cage, I was like, ooh, I felt that. It wasn't super painful, but I felt it. And it was like right around the same spot that I had felt the last time, which obviously sent me down like a spiral in my head. And they were like, well, if you knew how hard we were pinching you, like you'd sit up and punch us in the face. Like we're pinching really, really hard. So if it doesn't hurt that bad, like you're still talking, then you're probably fine. Do you feel this? And I was like, yeah, I feel it. It's sharp. Like it feels like a pinch. I don't know what to tell you. It doesn't feel like I'm gonna scream, but it feels like a pinch. And so then the two anesthesiologists are like whispering to each other behind me. And one of them comes over and was like, okay, so this is where we're at. The spinal block isn't working as well as we would hope that it would by this point. So we're gonna tip you backwards and hope that it kind of runs a little bit higher up in your body and numbs things a little bit more for us, but we have to get started. So alternatively, we can put you to sleep. Otherwise, we need to start the surgery. I do feel confident that you'll be able to make it through the surgery, but it's up to you. And I was like, I know from the first time around, the greatest moment of my life has been hearing my daughter cry. Like there's no way I am going to be put to sleep. And that was just like my first answer or response. But then in my head, I was like, but fuck, like how much am I gonna feel? Because this guy's telling me he feels pretty confident that I would be able to make it through this surgery. I'm like, oh my God, like by the time they reach my rib cage area, like their hands are gonna be all up inside my person. So that's when I started to get really, really scared all over again. And that's when Josh walked in and he was like, how are you doing? And I just kept staring up at the ceiling. I was like, I can't even look at you because I'm gonna cry so bad. I'm so scared right now. I just need to get through this. I just need to get through this. I just need to breathe. And I just kept looking up, but my jaw was chattering so hard and so fast. I swear to God, I thought I was gonna bite my tongue off. And then the surgery started, and this amazing anesthesiologist was walking me through all of the kind of like pivotal moments, like, okay, we're starting now, and all of that kind of stuff, which just was so important for me. And Josh is there on my other side, just being like the absolute rock star of a human being that he is, just doing whatever I needed him to do in that moment. You know, like holding my hand, talking to me, making me laugh, just my cheerleader, my everything. And then before I knew it, I heard that cry again. And it was just like, we did it again. And like immediately I stopped shaking. I was just like, I just did it. I did it again. He's here, he's healthy, he's crying, he's beautiful and perfect, and I did it, I got through it. And then, you know, they spent however long doing their business with my bits and my organs and whatever, what have you, but they put him on me and I was present, I was awake, I was not losing consciousness. My arms, I could feel my arms, I could hold my baby on my chest, and I could have that moment and be happy and not scared. It was so easy. It was so just like easy and calm. And like, I could look at Josh and I could like make eye contact with him and not be like losing consciousness the whole time. And it was just like, oh my God, like a night and day. And in that moment of just like breathing and being able to see my husband and have that moment with him and look at my baby and really be able to see what he looks like, because I was of present mind, and just the gratitude that I felt because I wasn't scared of anything at that point, it made all of the trauma that I had around that first experience just dissipate. It fizzled out of my body and into the universe, and it became a memory and not something that I was scared of anymore. And I felt so much peace. I've lived with this fear and trauma for 3 years, and I've never been able to really process it, because honestly, like, my body was present the whole time, but my mind wasn't, because I was in and out of consciousness. It's a strange thing. You know, Anna Lynn, one of my friends, I was like, you know, I wasn't even the one who was watching it happen. Like, the trauma for Josh must be even greater than mine. And she was like, that doesn't mean you weren't there. You were there. Your body was there. You felt it. You experienced that whole experience, whether you were in and out of consciousness or not, you were there. And now as your birth is drawing nearer, your body is bringing it all back for you mentally and emotionally. My body was there, even though my mind, you know, was in and out the whole time. To be able to be in that operating room and have all of that fear wash away and out of my body, because my body just experienced something completely different, and my mind was there and aware the whole time, experiencing something completely different. It was magic. I felt like I got redemption from that first birth experience that had really just given me a brand new set of fears that I'd never had before in my life. And I felt like anything is possible. And that's why we do hard things. And that's why we push through fear. That is why we push past fear. That's why we overcome. We overcome and we keep moving forward. We keep doing it. We keep doing the scary thing so that we can overcome it and we can have a brand new experience that is positive and wonderful and brings you joy and shuts that fear down from ever popping up again when a similar scenario presents itself. Like, I don't know if we're going to have any more kids or not. And if I do, I know I'll definitely have to have a C-section this time, because I'll have had 2 already. And I would want to now. I would want to after that experience. I just really didn't want to even talk about any of this until after the fact, because that fear was like paralyzing me. And when I'm really scared of something, I just have to push it out of my head and like do it, you know, and then figure it out later. And that's what I did. And I'm really fucking proud of myself. Let this be something that pushes you to do something that you're scared of. And, you know, in that moment, I didn't have a choice. I literally didn't have a choice. You know, I signed up for it. I was there. Like, the doctors were there. The baby was ready to go. Like, it was time. And I had to do it. And that's how I kind of want to face a lot of my fears moving forward. Like, I don't want to give myself the option to back down. I don't want to give myself the choice to not do the scary thing. I just want to push through like I have to do it. And like I have no choice but to face that fear and overcome it, because I can. I know that now. And you can too. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my birth story, making peace with the trauma for my first one, having a beautiful experience this time around. And I appreciate you for giving me the platform to be open, be honest, and share my experiences. I hope that by sharing some of mine, I might help you through some of yours on your own journey. I love you, and I will see you next Sunday. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't already. We'll be back with a vlog next Sunday. Sorry we don't have one for you this week. I just really wanted to get this birth story off of my chest and share with you guys. So thank you for giving me the space to do that. Mwah.